We're just going to talk a little bit today, a little bit about the COVID situation, which I'm sure you guys are all aware of, vaccine rollout in our province, and kind of a few of the questions that have come through our Vacci-Nation Talks, through my telephone and email. And I thought it would be great to have a healthcare professional here just to answer some of those questions so that you guys can watch them and share them and just have a space where you can get trusted information. You know, how do you choose where to go for information, Keith?
Yeah, absolutely. My go-to throughout the pandemic have been reliable sort of evidence-based sources like the Public Health Agency of Canada, the Canadian Immunization Research Network, the Alberta Health Services and Alberta Health websites, because these organizations are gathering information from reliable sources. Scientists like myself are constantly studying these things, publishing about them, and that information is being aggregated and shared through those governmental forums. The M&A website also has some really good resources.
And we strive to do our best through our communications department and our health department to really pull the information that is evidence-based, is up to date, because I think that's a really important factor for people to remember is that this pandemic is changing sometimes minute by minute. And so the M&A is doing their best to ensure that we amalgamate that information in one place so that citizens can come, because I recognize that potentially, everybody's level to look and explore that information might not be the same. And so we're doing our best to kind of put it in a single place. So definitely you can visit our Alberta Métis website to get that information.
I think too, just to consider, like if you are getting information off Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or just anywhere on the internet, look at when it was published. That's such an important piece because things are changing so quickly. If it was published 2 weeks ago, chances are things have changed since then. So really looking for the most up-to-date resources and also just checking that it's from a reliable source.
I was going to say that as well. Everybody is an armchair epidemiologist these days. Everybody can read a post or a journal article and come to their own conclusions and present it, but really reflect on whether or not that person has the experience.
Absolutely. And in the public health realm, what we're seeing is like what's being tagged as an infodemic, where misinformation or information that's out of date or unreliable or not verified is being shared faster or at the same rate as valid, useful information. And it's causing problems and potential harm to communities.
Yeah. On the topic of information, I actually have a few common questions that we've been getting from community, and I wondered if we could just chat about them. So one of the things that's out there is not necessarily a complete distrust of these new vaccines, but community is wondering, like, how did these mRNA vaccines come out so quickly? They had never heard about them before. Are they safe? Are Indigenous people just being treated like guinea pigs? What can you tell us about mRNA vaccines, Keith?
Yeah, so from the mRNA vaccines have been in development since the 90s. That's when the idea was sort of floated of using this type of technology to deliver vaccines. But it really sort of came to fruition in 2003 with the SARS outbreak that we saw in Toronto, where a lot of research was done to develop a vaccine quickly. And again, that SARS vaccine was using this mRNA technology. Fortunately, SARS was contained and we didn't need that vaccine. However, there have been further iterations. The work has continued. And when COVID-19 happened, scientists were prepared to do large-scale implementation and studies of this technology in this setting. And fortunately, or unfortunately, there were places in the world where the prevalence or the number of cases in societies was high enough that we could rapidly test and implement the sort of phase 1, 2, and 3 clinical trials in quick succession, enabling scientists to quickly evaluate the safety, efficacy of the vaccine in a way that was never available before. I mean, most vaccines historically take 5 to 7 years to develop because you have to have a large number of people willing to participate in the trials and a large number of people in the community with the infection in order to risk exposure. With COVID-19, we had a high number of people who were interested in getting vaccinated, and we had a lot of people in the United States, England, other parts of the world with circulating virus in their communities. So it was sort of a perfect storm for the rapid development and testing of safety and efficacy of these vaccines.
It's amazing. The way I like to think about it is it's kind of like an iceberg. So when an iceberg's floating by, you just see that small piece sticking out of the water. And that's really what we're seeing on media. These vaccines, they've come out quickly and people are just seeing that tip of the iceberg. But what's underneath that water is all the development of these mRNA vaccines.
Literally years.
Years, since 2003. I actually think 1997 might have been the first time that they looked into this technology. So it's not actually new,
No.
but what we're presented with is new. And so I think it's really important, when we talk about the information that we see, to really critically think about that, because actually that's a very long time for vaccine development.
Absolutely.
Right?
And I think the other thing people, or at least I hear in my practice, is people are concerned, well, the government approval process was fast-tracked. Is it safe? Did they skip steps? Well, truthfully, Operation Warp Speed in the United States didn't really skip any safety issues. What it did is remove administrative steps. So it's sort of enabled researchers to get information to the decision makers more quickly. That's the same information they would have gotten before, just in a quicker timeline. So the phase 1 trial data was reported while phase 2 was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Phase 2 trial data was being reported as phase 3 was going on. And so what it did is cut down the amount of administrative time between getting information and making decisions to move forward.
So it was in real time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's amazing to me. One of the other things that I often hear is that people are a little bit unsure about how mRNA vaccines even work. Is there a simple way that you can explain that?
Yeah, so I use this analogy a lot when teaching. Is I think about a recipe book. Like your body's DNA is like the recipe book for everything your body does. All the proteins, all the substances, molecules that your body uses. And mRNA vaccines, in my mind, are like a photograph of a recipe out of another recipe book. You can get it sent to you by text or injected in your arm. It gives you the instructions to make a certain product or protein, and then your body can react to that protein and develop immunity to COVID-19. There's no actual COVID-19 DNA in it. It's just that little messenger RNA recipe. It teaches your body how to produce the spike protein that helps you to fight COVID-19 when you develop immunity to it.
But it doesn't actually alter your recipe book.
No, it doesn't change your recipe book at all. In fact, you can throw it away after a couple days. Well, 14 days after vaccination, there's no mRNA left in your body, but you do have strong immunity.